Either one of us ate lunch, and it was a shitty stream for my nephew. I was like, fuck this. We'll just come back to this another day. He has to Uber back. Had errands to run in between, and then literally his car just got done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, I'm having an echo. Oh, it's probably your stream. Yep. Um,
I didn't do it. Oh, Darren, you're starting off with 7 people today. Go you.
Thanks, man. And so his car literally just got done like maybe 15, 20 minutes before this. And then I have my friend's birthday tonight. And I'm like, what time is her birthday dinner? 6:30. Motherfuck. So that's when I texted you. I'm like, hey man, either we gotta push it back or I gotta cancel. It's one of those days that I just knew going into it I'm not going to win, so I'm just not gonna try.
Why is the thing that is the most regular of things the back burner thing?
And I'm just like, unemployed. Why am I that? Why does everything that has to happen had to happen today?
I just don't know who the fuck has a birthday party on a Wednesday. That's when their birthday is. No, I don't care. You do it then on the 3-day weekend that's coming up.
So first of all, it's a chick, and no offense to women out there, but they love doing their birthday on their birthdays.
No. They want a birthday month at this point.
Yeah.
Hey, Mask, how you doing?
That notwithstanding, today is her actual birthday, so she just wanted to go out to dinner, not party, not do anything, not just go out to dinner. Okay, that I can understand, but it happened to just be today, so I'm just like,
So she does a party on a Wednesday. Epsilon, how are you? But does a party on a Wednesday before a 3-day weekend.
I'm gonna have to restart my stream because none of my audio channels are showing up.
Hold on. Yeah, I guess that is a thing, isn't it?
Apparently.
On today's episode of Darren Can't Win.
Right?
All right, Darren, we love you.
Murphy's Law, man. Murphy's Law, man. If anything that can go wrong, it will.
Speaking of Murphy's Law, did you ever see that little book thing called Private Murphy?
No.
So it was by, I guess the Army would have them more often. But I'm doing pretty good, Masked. But the Army had this this whole series of books written by this dude. I don't know where he was. But anyway, it was Private Murphy. And it was Private Murphy's Law. And it's basically everything that can go bad in the military will go bad. And it's all of the really stupid shit that we deal with. One of them was a guy goes over to his NCO. And he's like, I got really drunk at the bar. I brought someone home and they weren't who I thought they were. I didn't know what to do, so I cut my arm off because I panicked. What do I do? And the NCO comes out with no arms. He's like, I don't know. I've done that twice. So I did a really bad job of explaining it, but
reloading my stream right now, and
next slide, Darren. Oh, I think Discord's going to DC on him also. But yeah, Mast,
do I have to reboot the computer?
I don't know. Are you looking at too much porn and just pick something up?
No, I'm not doing shit.
Alright, you're good now.
I'm gonna have to reboot, dude. So I'll be back.
Alright. But yeah, Mast, I am doing good. My mouth is still freaking killing me from the dentist yesterday. It's a little bit better, but not much. And then, yeah. Darren said that he wanted to do this early today. At that birthday party that you heard about, so here we are. Oh no, I might try to play some more things later on tonight. You guys got any suggestions on what else I should play? He might be back. Nope, nope. He's hosting me now. Darren, thank you for the host. uh, it's funny because the sound didn't actually come through from it. Mass, are you able to hear Darren talking also, or is it just me? I just gotta double check my audio stuff. You can hear him? Alright, cool. Oh. And then I thought he said 4:30, not 4 o'clock, so I'm like, ah! So you know what, actually, while Darren's doing that, I'm still going to play my intro music because... Intro music. There's no reason not to play it, so... I'll turn it down some today.
Trying to get back up and running. Slowly, but surely. Locked out for a second. Don't fucking understand it. Why? Can you hear me now, Mouse? Okay. Yeah, it's just... There go my audio channels. That's awesome. Oh, Angry Me could rival Joe Pesci.
Wait for it. Wait. Okay, now we can talk. I gotta wait till the last little bit off of the music.
So now my shit wants to work, and I can't with today, dude. This is one of those days where I just want to flip the table and be like, nope, I'm not doing shit right now.
Then
It might be tomorrow.
Then flip the table and don't do anything. Like honestly, what's the worst thing that happens if you flip the table and just don't do anything?
I come back to these problems on another day.
No, because you won't have to deal with a birthday tomorrow. You won't have to deal with Joe's car tomorrow. You won't have to deal with a power outage in frickin' the random roads of Ventura tomorrow. Like, there's so many things that you won't have to deal with tomorrow, no matter how bad tomorrow is. Like, you know, if tomorrow's even worse than today, you won't have the same problems tomorrow. At least not those problems.
Holy shit. All right.
All right, man. Take your time.
So, otherwise, what's going on, man?
I am eating a strawberry banana yogurt. And it is
Nice.
freaking delicious. No,
was it Shobani?
It is Yog Play, and it has the new Lola Bunny on there. That is not a sex symbol. Yeah, I don't get it. It says you're currently offline on your stream.
All right, I'm going live right now because my audio channels decided to work by some miracle. Oh, nope, they're not.
Checkity check. No?
Nope, nothing.
It was there.
All right, there's my microphone.
Did you go to a new scene?
No, the audio is completely different from the scenes. Okay, that should be working now. Holy mother of fuck.
Weapon, how are you doing, my dude? I have not talked to you in weeks.
Yeah, I asked him the other day, like, why he hasn't streamed lately, and I guess he's taking some night course. So.
Damn it, you're never gonna hit top 500 streamers by taking night school. Just saying. Can you believe him? Bettering his life instead of being one of 500 people in the world.
All right, I'm gonna stop this stream avatar shit because it's lagging.
So
Lagging bad right now.
it was funny. I went back and actually watched your thing when you got rated and everything because I wanted to see what the stream avatars looked like. They are a absolute fucking mess when there are that many people in there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Oh my god! Why? Just close.
Guys, we'll eventually get to stuff, but we're gonna let Darren rant, rave, and possibly curse.
I'm about to flip this fucking table on the stream right now. I'm getting that irritated.
You're a blout too?
Yep, I'm a blout too.
What's going on, Scully?
There we go.
Not yet ready for prime time. All right, well. You want to?
Shit.
So, try on that again?
The stream avatars? No. One thing I was going to bring up is, and this is the sometimes politics portion of it.
Ooh, that's like 3 streams in a row we've done sometimes politics. This is becoming more like,
I know.
and maybe politics.
And probably politics. So Dear Leader Gruesome,
Yes.
I believe it was him or his team, I don't remember, but they started talking about how they're going to come up with a system for validating vaccinations, something
Mhm.
like that. And I'm like, dude, how it's like, how much, like, okay, so let's say you do that. What are the ramifications of people on the naughty list? That's my first question. And
So
which would kind
go ahead, because I have a bunch of crap about that. If you want to get into those types of things, oh, do I have like a bunch of things? But go ahead, continue your line of thought before I get into that. And
it just made me laugh. It made me chuckle because I'm like forward thinking on it. I'm like, okay, what are the ramifications for those on the naughty list? Because that communist playbook.
So
Yeah, that was your turn.
oh, okay. So what they want to do is they want to create some kind of a database that actually has all the people that have been vaccinated, and then you would show an ID in order to show that you have fully been vaccinated and those types of things, right?
Right.
So all of a sudden, showing an ID for a government purpose is no longer racist because it's not an election.
Exactly.
I just want to just throw that out there, that the Georgia voting laws and the shit going on in Texas have been called worse than Jim Crow because they have to show voter ID. And it's just like, okay, fine, you show an ID. Well, it's like, papers, please. Yeah, by the way, they can ask us for our ID for something like that, but it's actually illegal for you to ask a person for their papers if you think that someone is an illegal immigrant in the country.
Yep.
Well, in the state of California.
In your for your long lost search of double standards is not complete.
Oh no, this is the so the long lost search, like the search actually started with women. Because women, you all have double standards. It is a thing that women have. There's only one woman in the chat right now. I mean, unless
Sure,
someone else.
You're gonna go with this, but okay, now I get it.
Well, no, there's a couple of things, but the big double standard, and it wasn't even that a thing that women even really have control of, but it was the whole slut and player thing.
I'll go along with that.
All right, yeah. And I understand that there's like a really good analogy that goes with it, but if a guy sleeps with a bunch of women, he's a stud. But if a woman sleeps with a bunch of guys, she's a whore. And so there was a one of these guys came out and he's just like, well, yeah, if my key opens 100 locks, it's a master key. But if your lock is opened by 100 keys, it's useless. So
I really like that analogy.
And the actual whole thing behind that is that there was I think it was actually a podcast that I watched. I have no idea who was doing it, but they were like, look, the reason that it is an accomplishment for a man and not for the woman, or so to speak, is that the woman has total control over everything that happens, aside from cases of rape. I understand that. I don't condone rape. We'll just get all that out of the way. But a woman controls it. Like a guy, straight up, if you and a woman are in a room together, like if a man and a woman are in a room together for any period of time, the guy is going to want to screw her. Whether she is his type or not, it does not matter. We are pigs. That's what it boils down to. A woman, at any time she wants, could go, you know, I feel like having sex right now. Low cut top, Tinder pick, you've got 12 dates. So that's the whole thing. But it is a double standard. It's a really fucked up double standard because let's be honest, like I was a whore. Darren, you may have been a whore, but I was a whore.
Oh, between 20 and 23.
Yeah, see, I can't get into too much of my stories because I believe most of my stuff actually happened in high school. So we can't actually talk about a lot of that because that would be talking about.
That would be, well,
Yeah,
all
see,
right.
that's a really fucked up line, isn't it?
That's a fine line. That's a fine line. Yeah, because you talking about your own life, that's actually a great legal question.
Skippy!
Like, it's talking about your own life. Like, does that count?
well, okay. Legally speaking, so I taught at a high school for a while, right?
Right.
Not as actual teacher, but I was part of the faculty. I was being paid by the school district to be pretty much a paid volunteer there. And being a paid volunteer there and everything else, more so, let's go back a little bit before that. Before I was a paid volunteer there, I was actually not part of the mandatory reporting because I was not a part of the school district. And because of that, a lot of kids would actually come up and tell me about their issues and things that were going on at home and whatever it was, and would help them where I could. But, staying within my lane, of course. But I did not have to report these things unless I felt that someone was like an imminent threat to somebody else. Fine, whatever.
Right.
But there is, like, let's say issues of self-harm, okay? Someone either doing it for attention or is actually trying to deal with something, whatever it is. If you are employed by any school district in California, you are mandated to report those things. I was not. And so I was able to like sit there and talk to them about it without getting their parents or the psych or whatever involved, right? And personally, I think it did a lot of good that way. But within those types of things and hearing the conversations that go on when you're not totally jaded and have been working at the schools for 30 years, like some of the teachers, you end up hearing a whole lot more, like the group chats where you actually had to buy your way into a group chat where the girls would then send boob pictures to one another. So the guys would have to Venmo each of the girls that were in this chat in order to...
I did hear something about this way, way back when. Long before Venmo, but I understand the analogy.
Yeah.
Craigslist actually took a knock for this a while back. And I think only up until maybe 2 years ago did that actually come to pass.
Craigslist actually got rid of their personals, their personal...
Which I don't blame them. That shit was sketchy as fuck. And when Craigslist first came out, I'm like, all right, this whole site is sketchy as fuck. And that was long before the personals.
Oh, dude, I still think Craigslist is sketchy as hell.
It's still sketchy as fuck.
I mean, most of those sites are... Okay, can I just bring up... Okay, there was actually... I will go back to the whole... Let's put a pin in that for a second, because I do want to finish the thing before about the high school. And that is that if a student is actually caught sending nudes to another student, depending on who catches them, they can actually be now put on Megan's Law, like as a sexual predator, because they are not only in possession of child pornography, but they are distributing child pornography.
And it's like one of those gray areas where it's like, if you are not explicitly law enforcement, even as law enforcement, it's a very, very fine line, just because the law is, to my understanding, it's not very protective of those trying to stop the actual sexual predators, like the people that, wind up being third party privy to all this shit.
So, but here's the thing.
So,
the student sending it is, and here's one of the things, and I did hear about this happening at one point. A student got a hold of a teacher's cell phone number and tried to blackmail them into a better grade by saying, I will report you for having child porn on your phone, because she herself was going to send it to him.
In that, so that's one of those situations, especially in the state of California, where, like, Air Force is kind of notorious for this, but where the punishment comes before the crime
Mm-hmm.
or before the investigation. Um, in the last, like, maybe 15 or 20 years, those kind of kids really, I don't want to say wizened up, but really wizened up to the idea of blackmail to be used against adults. And in a lot of ways, the the minor in that situation would always be granted, you know, the title of victim in that scenario, even if they were the perpetrator and the whole thing.
So the way that the teacher got out of it is the second that that came up, they reported it to the principal. So there was a report made. Student did
Yep.
get what they wanted. The picture was then sent, but the report predated the picture that was
Yep.
sent. Without
And
that, they would have
that
been
teacher would have
fucked.
been screwed.
So
So that teacher made the right move. And one of the greatest things I had ever heard years ago
Mhm.
is there's a difference between it's kind of like saying honesty goes a long way. And a lot of times when you're honest about something, you wind up paying the price for it.
Yep.
Doesn't feel like it goes a long way. But you're upfront about something, it's way different than something getting dug up, like a background investigation.
Yes.
Um, when something like that gets dug up, then it looks like you're trying to hide it.
So the funny things about that, and I'm pretty sure this is why it's not one of those things that is being really out there, is that there have been other cases of this where it was shown and the teacher lost, all of their stuff or whatever it was. It was then proven false. That teacher not only got all of their stuff pretty much reinstated, they ended up completely owning the child's parents and everything that they owned at that point because of false accusations. And dude, could you imagine just because you're failing a class because of your own stupidity, you make another bad move and all of a sudden your parents lose their house, both their cars, and their pension?
Well, so that's kind of mentality that I was brought up in the 80s. My parents were actually kind of smart about that, where even just getting into a fight with another kid, um, it's one thing that you as a kid, squaring up against, a bully or whatever. It's one thing you squaring up against that kid, whether or not you would win that fight. It
Mhm.
is a whole different ball game if, let's say, you didn't win the fight, but you left him with, you beat him up pretty good along the way to getting knocked out. Uh, that kid went home to their parents, and their parents were the frivolous type, where they decided to sue my parents for, assault and battery or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's not even a question of whoever wins that court battle. It's the mere fact that the cost going into it could potentially, force your parents to sell a home
So, and the great thing
or
about
take out a second mortgage.
when there are things like that, and then it shows that the outcome of a case was dependent on someone that was lying or whatever it was, you can go straight after them, not only to pay all of your court fees, but also have to pay for every one of the days you had to take off of work and all this other stuff. So it's that same thing like we were talking about when it comes down to trademarking or something like that. If someone wants to screw you over, okay, fine. It may take years, but guess what? I'm not only going to get my stuff back and all the money that I've put in, but I'm going to get a hell of a lot more from you as well. So,
You're in terms of comparison of situation, yeah, maybe sure. In terms of, you know, actual monetary or whatever value benefit that you would get in the end, I don't really know if it's even worth it at that point. Epsilon says, "Okay, Doc, able to catch me up? I entered your stream, broke a fucking jar of pickles." I feel bad for you on 2 degrees there, man. One, pickles are amazing, so the fact that they had to go to waste, that sucks.
Who said he wasted
Number
them?
two, dude, if you drop a jar of pickles and the glass breaks, it's glass. The last thing you want to do is eat anything that got broken. That
Whatever.
it's glass.
It's some sand. Like we haven't all eaten dirt at some point.
Dirt goes down a lot easier than glass does. You swallow a piece of glass and let me know how you feel.
All right, fine. You can just wash them
by the way,
off.
if anybody wants to know why it isn't wearing a tank top today, it's because it's hot as fuck.
Yeah, I went and turned the AC on right before we started this whole thing.
Dude, Joe, so this morning it was actually pretty cool. It was like in the mid 60s out here. But within a matter of like an hour or two, it jumped up to 80 and it wasn't even like 10 or 11 yet. It was just insane. Yeah. Yeah, they're both on my side. So it's like, yeah, no.
All right, I put a pin in something, and what the hell did I put a pin in? Because we were going to go into another topic, and
I derailed.
So did I.
That's all right. We'll go on to something else. That's the point of a Fly By Seat podcast. I originally was talking about the whole dear leader, trying to implement the COVID vaccine system shit. I is laughable to me because that's like saying you're going to force me to get every other fucking flu shot that's out there. Well, you can't really do that. Okay, cool. So you're going to restrict me from being able to do anything else because of the fact that I don't have the vaccine or refuse to get it? Is there a punishment that comes along with that, like they did with the Affordable Care Act, which is also illegal to do? So
Thanks,
my mom's
Obama.
an enrolled agent. My mom's an enrolled agent for the IRS, and yeah, we had to deal with that shit.
I just always think whenever something like that comes up, it's like, thanks, Obama.
I don't know if she's a directly an enrolled agent for the IRS, but I know she works with them. So
she's
but yeah,
undercover.
No, not undercover. I think it's one of those like third party things where she, distributes information to them. I don't know how that actual process works, but I know she is an enrolled agent. She does taxes or whatever. And when the Affordable Care Act did get passed, the mandate was put into place where if you didn't have health care the entire duration of the year, that you were given a penalty to pay on your tax return. But since it was on your tax return, it's kind of unconstitutional because it's taxation without representation. So fast forward to 2017, when President Trump eliminated the mandate, he didn't, smartly, he did not dissolve all of the Affordable Care Act because that would be the stupidest thing to do. But what he did get rid of was the mandate, which was awesome. What did California do a year later? Impose their own mandate.
Speaking of things that are unconstitutional and that California has imposed and is coming back to bite them in the ass, the assault weapon ban has been deemed unconstitutional.
Yes! A win! Finally!
Also, LA County, I know it's a lot easier to do in Ventura, but LA County, and this I did not expect, is actually issuing CCWs.
Fun fact, a buddy of mine, I won't name who or where, but he is one of the only people to have an FFL out in that county for a particular city. But it was a battle for him to just, to get an FFL, let alone a CCW.
So yeah, well, the CCW honestly isn't that bad. Especially in like San Bernardino and stuff like that. Apparently, anyone in the military. So I've got some friends, like everyone in here should know at this point. I was an MP for years, right? So I've got a lot of friends that are law enforcement. Currently were law enforcement or are still military police, and his unit literally gave him like this little card and said, read this card off or write it down verbatim and you will get your CCW in these counties. And it's basically being in the armed services, I feel that I am forever under threat, and so are those around me. So on, so forth, blah, blah, blah. Give me my weapon. Or give me the ability to carry a concealed weapon.
So if you live in one of the more liberal counties, then yeah, I would understand memorizing all that. And even then, some law enforcement agencies are fairly lenient to the military individual. Um, all you really need is your DD Form 214, and that usually kind of expedites the process.
No.
Really?
Yes. That does actually nothing, because let's say that you're in the army and you're 42 Alpha, which is admin.
Yeah.
They're not giving you a CCW.
That's weird. That might just be a California thing because I know Texas is one of the states that is the most lax.
Okay, Texas, you get a CCW with your fucking social security card on birth, all right? It's just like, you're born, here's a 45, here's your birth certificate, and then they slap you on the ass to make sure you can breathe.
And then Joe can actually attest. He's like, apparently in Texas, the CCW course is like you show up for 1 or 2 hours, watch some slides, and boom, you got a CCW.
So here's the most fucked up thing, by the way. And by the way, Epsilon, most people they don't try to take guns. They do what are called mandatory buybacks. And what they'll do is they will say, on this day to this day, at these specific places, you bring weapons, no questions asked, and we will give you money, equal to the amount of that the weapon would be worth, give or take up to so much. So
Fair market value.
And so there's some dudes, and I think it's amazing and hilarious. They make their own single-shot shotguns with a piece of PVC pipe. Basically, it's a PVC pipe with a filed-down nail that they hook up to a spring, and then they basically bolt it to a piece of wood. And the cops are like, "This doesn't work," and the dude's like, "I can show you that it works if you want. I brought blanks just in case." Loads a blank, fires it once, and said, "Yeah, I brought 200 of them. I'll take $200 a piece."
And, Epsilon, just said, you can't get rid of guns. Well, fucking duh. And that's not fucking duh to you, but fucking duh to those trying to get rid of guns, quote unquote. So when did a piece of paper, i.e. legislation, ever stop a criminal? So if you were to successfully remove guns from the stores and shit, you're still going to have guns.
Okay, I do have to say that there is a couple of places that people like to try to compare us to. New Zealand and Australia are two of the big ones. Because Australia, yeah, right. What people don't seem to really throw into the equation is that, okay, fine, Australia's gun violence has dropped substantially. All right, I will give them that. It has dropped substantially. But their violent crime rate has tripled. Their suicide rate has stayed the same, which, if you actually want to get into the real numbers of things, 85%, maybe it's even higher than that, of gun violence deaths are actually from suicide. And the last thing, what?
Epsilon just nailed it on the head. He's like, what's funny is guns aren't the issue. They're not.
You're right. It's a way of thinking, and I don't want to go into bashing people's way of thinking. All right, that's not what. Because the whole thing is that people can actually say, and I would actually give it a little bit of credence, that the only true religion in the U.S., as far as the conservative side, is weapons at this point. It is one of the few things. I think Darren's gone again. Is he gone? He's gone. So. The only true religion is a crash. I'll wait for him to get back and then I'll start that again. But it is one of those types of things. He might be coming back. He's coming back. He is back.
I'm back.
Hi, Sunshine.
Discord crashing is like the least of my fucking pains today. So I'm just rolling with. Anyway,
But anyway, people have actually, I don't know, have you ever heard of, oh, what the hell were they calling people? Amophiles? Basically,
I mean,
people that are in love with weapons.
yeah, I've never even really heard of the term. I mean,
Um,
I guess I would understand if that term actually existed,
but
but
anyway,
even
but
you're describing probably 90% of the military at that point.
yes, and the 90% that's and the 10% that's not are there probably because they had nothing else to do in life and that was their last option, which normally we hate those 10% anyway. But
Yeah.
so people have actually said that the only real religion in the conservative, and they said America, but there's just such a huge divide now that I'm just going to go with the conservative side of it, is weapons. Because there are very few things anymore that people will actually fight that hard to retain and that hard for. And it's I understand it. And I understand kind of both sides. People are like, "Oh, well, you can't have gun violence if there are no guns." Well, true, but that doesn't stop violence. Like when and in any of these places, by the way, any of these places. So if you want to go with, I'll go back to Australia. Australia lost their weapons, their violent crimes, which includes rape, which includes assault, murder. They all went up, and I mean they went up substantially.
I see what you're saying. You're saying even if you remove guns from the equation, you're not going to remove violence from the equation.
Correct, because violence is not a tool. A weapon is a tool. Violence is not a tool. Violence is a belief. You cannot kill a belief. You cannot kill an idea. You cannot kill an emotion. Granted, okay, you can actually, and it is called a lobotomy. But for the most part, on a very big, very general basis, you cannot kill an idea.
To Epsilion's credit, I think if anything, you might have been only supporting his statement. I don't know if I would agree necessarily about what you said about violence, but I think at the end of the day, if you were to wind the clock 1,000 years, guns didn't exist, but we still had violence. Why? Because violence was the result of the failure of diplomacy,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's just in the large scale battles that we know about. So not in the small scale situations where you want to talk about like ransacks or rapes and pillages or robberies or thefts or anything like that. These are all the shit that we probably don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
All right, or in all likelihood don't know about. So violence is the end product of a failure of diplomacy. And if you were to take two rival gangs in this modern day and age but remove the guns, and those two rival gangs come to a disagreement, well, you have a failure of diplomacy. Therefore, things are probably not going to go well. All right.
You have West Side Story with them dancing in the street with switchblades.
Exactly. Maybe that's how we end all wars. It's just with the dance-off party.
I'd be totally down.
I'm more down for a cocktail party. Last man standing at the end of the night wins a war.
I'm gonna say that there had to have been something in ancient Greece that was settled that way.
If that did happen and war was based on a cocktail party, for a fact Russia would win that shit.
Russia would win.
Russia would win that shit. And I want to say Ukraine, because I know people that have been there and they can attest to that, where it's like, dude, vodka is water to them.
Yep. But anyway, Epsilon, what you were saying about that kind of stuff.
Violence is the end result of the failure of diplomacy. It's just there's different tools to the trade, and that's like what Epsilon was just saying. Where if you're going to commit arson, or if you can use a car as a weapon, you could use fists as a weapon, and you could still wind up with the same result, and that's somebody dying.
Mm-hmm.
So removing the gun from the equation doesn't solve the overall problem. The overall problem is the person behind the tool itself, whether it be a trigger or a fist.
So, one of the arguments, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, but one of the arguments is that a weapon kind of removes you from the situation.
Okay.
All of those, now granted, not necessarily a grenade or a Molotov or a another type of explosive or something like that, but most of these other things, like if you were talking about stick, a knife or things like that, you actually have
trees are now illegal.
I mean, diabetes kills more people than anyone. Let's ban spoons. But
sugar. Spoons. Sugar's the tool, not the spoon.
Diabetes is the outcome. It doesn't matter.
Joe was just telling me about the movie Demolition Man, where they banned salt and sugar and all that shit because it was bad for you. Or whatever.
Oh, dude, that's such a great movie.
All right, Joe, you won that one.
Oh, it is so bad and it's amazing. That I believe that has Sylvester Stallone Wesley Snipes and
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, whatever. She's kind of whatever. She's fucking Bird Box chick now, and that's about it.
My dad had lunch with her, and he said that she was like the nicest person in the world. So yeah, I'm not gonna say anything bad about her.
She may be the nicest person in the world, but she has been completely irrelevant up until Bird Box over the past 10 years.
Is she in Interstellar?
Like I said, completely irrelevant. No, actually, that wasn't a bad movie. Got a double Sylvester Stallone. But anyway, there's that whole thing. But going back to what you said before about a lot less pain, honestly, Epsilon, you are really, really likely to live from a gunshot wound. The only reason, there's actually a big mental thing as to why people die from gunshot wounds, and it is not from loss of blood, it's from shock. And it's because you grew up playing Cowboys and Indians or Cops and Robbers, where someone goes, bang, you're dead. And you get this in your head of one shot, one kill, that's the end of it. And that is the end all. But it's not.
And so from the military's perspective, when you're in a combat situation, that is the goal.
It's not.
It depends. If you're in a hostile situation, yeah, you're gonna want to, aim to end that person. But when you're in a normalized society where they don't really have access to, that style weapon, it's just a regular handgun. 9 times out of 10, most people don't know what they're buying, and I think you're 100% right. Where it's like, just because you get shot with a 9mm Beretta doesn't really mean you're gonna go down.
No, actually, because my primary weapon, so my actual, the Army, the normal primary weapon is the M4, right? That I think is like everyone's, primary basic training, whatever it is. For MPs, that's our secondary. Our primary is actually the 9.
For Air Force, we get trained in the M16, and then the officers get trained in the 9mm Beretta. But then if you go into a specific function like security forces or JSOC, then you go into different weapons like the M4.
But like I said, the Army as a whole, when you go through basic training, it's either M16 or M4, kind of depends on what they have. It's the same fucking weapon. Let's be honest. One of them is just slightly shorter than the other one. They're the same fucking weapon. And you can get some, gun nuts out there to be, no, they're not. This one is 3 feet per second faster than the other one, and the shells eject it, this type of timing before, and whatever, fuck it. It's the same fucking weapon.
Who was that lawyer that tried to say this is this gun fires 100 rounds per second and then it has a 30-round magazine?
That was the governor with the sheriff standing behind him with this magazine, 300 magazine round per second, or something stupid like that. And the sheriff is behind him like, the fuck? This is a ghost gun. Oh, that was...
This is a unicorn weapon. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Don't listen to him. Nothing to
300 magazine per second.
Oh,
And he repeats it like 4 times.
Oh
But-
yeah.
But anyway,
He was trying to make it like at a point of it, like he was being dramatic about it. And it was it was so great. It was like, dude, it was like it was like AOC. It was the gift that keeps on giving. So woo.
excuse me.
There's one. So even with that, Epsilon. So even with that being said, still less painful to recover compared to being hit by a truck.
It
Con explosion.
every single one of those
That's-
things is all in how it happens.
Yeah, so this is where I'm gonna disagree a little bit, Epsilon, is everybody's got a different level of pain tolerance. So look at it. I would probably answer that question best as if you were to be executed, how would you want to go down? And everyone's probably going to have a different answer.
No, he already said that like specific thing.
Did he?
Yeah, hear me out. If someone's going on a rampage and I get caught in the crossfire, I want it to be a gun, unlike fire explosions, running people down with the car, etc. Quick, over, without much, if any, pain. It honestly, it's all in how it actually happens.
Yeah.
Because honestly, yeah, dude, if I have the choice between being hit by a truck or shot in the top of my right foot at this point, I'm probably gonna get hit by a truck. Because I already have a busted left foot, I can't do a busted right foot also.
So and there's where you're kind of the exception, where it's like, if it were me, I'd probably want to just get shot in the foot and be done with it.
Oh my god, no. You've never shattered your foot.
It shattered my ankle, but
yeah.
all right. Fun story.
Story time.
I've hit cars and I have surfed cars. I have been dragged by cars on a skateboard. And they just one of those events involving a vehicle in some stupid way or fashion has been pretty fucking painful. So again, I would if we're not going micro and drilling down the style, the type of the gun and the size of the bullet or anything like that, yes, shoot me in the foot. Now, if we're talking like 5.56, where I might lose a couple toes, or
it's a 50 cal to the foot, all right.
Yeah, then we might have a different discussion.
But yeah, there's that. But yeah, so we might be able to get assault weapons. And by the way, the term assault weapon is really not real. Yes, we use that term a lot, but assault is an action, not a type of weapon. They are rifles. They might be
one of the things we're called.
What?
So this actually does scare me a little bit, because only my nephew is starting to play it. But this is where Call of Duty gets shit right a little bit. So the definition of assault weapon is like defining a race of guns. All right. You have an entire class of weapons. Yeah, they're all assault rifles to a certain extent. They're different styles, they're different makers, they're different manufacturers, they could even be different caliber of bullet. But yeah, you could group them all in this category in some way or shape or form. The shit that scares me is, kids like my nephew who are playing these fucking games, which personally I don't have a problem with, as long as there is the understanding that, hey, this is a video game. Don't take any of this shit personally, even if I, the 37-year-old, scream at the top of my lungs that some dude shot me from 500 meters. All right.
Assault rifle lives matter. I'm gonna leave that one because I'm sorry, all rifle lives matter.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing that freaks me out, is like kids like my nephew are playing these games, with or without any kind of oversight, and they're getting introduced to things like potentially military tactics, utilization of weapon. Granted, none of that actually transcends into a real life scenario, but how hard would it be to transfer that information from the virtual world to the real world? Not much. It certainly wouldn't take that much training to do, because you already have some kind of familiarity with those understandings and concepts.
So there was a story about a kid that used to play a bunch of shooter games. It wasn't necessarily controller. It was actually with, you know, a weapon, kind of like Duck Hunt or something like that. I think it was like Time Crisis.
Okay.
But ended
Hold on
up,
a second.
yeah, right. But ended up getting a hold of a weapon, going into I believe it was a church, like a church gathering, and the kid had like a 90% accuracy to headshots because that's what he had trained on this game. And people were running and whatever it was. Some guy came in and said, "Stop, put the gun down," and he just listened, because that's actually what we've trained kids to do. We've not trained kids what happens when people chase them down. When kids are actually in like when they're home and they're playing games or whatever it happens to be, and their mom wants them to stop, they say, "Hey, come here. Drop, you know, stop what you're doing and come here." And the kids are then trained to do that type of a thing. The older you get, of course, the less that works out, but there's a thing called muscle memory, where you get so accustomed to doing something that you will continue the action no matter what it is. Hey, Mom. Another quick thing about that was a guy that used to train about... Okay, I thought you DC'd again.
No.
There was this guy, and he got incredibly proficient at disarming people that have a handgun, taking the weapon and then pointing it at them. But then the next act, because he wanted to do it again, was handing the weapon back to the person. It came a time where he needed this, and the guy literally disarmed this person, pointed it at him, turned it around, and handed it back to him, because that was part of his muscle memory for that thing.
To some extent, you know, I can't discredit nobody can really discredit the fact that you know, the video game industry has transcended information in one way or another, on a
Yes.
positive note. So another fine example, if we're going to stay strictly on military games, is like Call of Duty Warzone. You know, if you're in a gunfight, what's the smartest thing to do? Rush people? No, that's how you lose. What you do is you back off and you wait for the right time to engage. That information can be transcended into the real world, where it's like, if you wind up in an active shooter situation, all right, well, you don't even have a 1911 to start with. You got your bare fucking hands. So you're bringing a knife to a gunfight. And this dude's probably 50 meters away, you know, if somewhere in that realm. What are you going to do? You're probably going to hunker in, you know, and this is without any training whatsoever that we're given, like you and I. So, you know, there is positive information to come from that. The thing that freaks me out is the strategic information for kids that, you know, wind up having the ill will or the wrong mindset or the wrong environment or the wrong influence to transcend that information into the real world. And now all of a sudden you have this person that knows how to conduct strategy.
So that was actually something that got brought up quite a bit in MP school. And I'm going to keep bringing up MP school because it's kind of the area that we're getting into at this point, where a lot of gangs were actually sending people into the military for, you know, whether it's the Marines or the Army normally, to get weapons training and tactics training, come back and then train people. And there's a couple of times where literally you will see gang members in shootouts where they're actually pieing corners. What pieing a corner means is, this is for everyone else, not for you. If you're on if you're on a corner, what you're going to do is you are going to slowly step out and just expose yourself to little areas as you're stepping out. You'll slowly back away from the corner, and then you'll step out and around it until you have completely cleared this corner. You also don't stand next to walls. There's a bunch of other random stuff that goes into that. It's called MOUT, Military Operations in Urban Terrain. And it's something that is pushed way more now than it used to be, of course, because that's kind of the situations that people were facing out in Iraq. Not so much Afghanistan, but more so Iraq. Did I miss anything there? You're muted, or I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on.
There you are. So. My voice is probably a little low.
All right. But yeah, so there's that. One of the other things, and this one is just kind of a funny story. There is actually a gang called Los Zeta, and they used to be the muscle for the Mexican mafia. You know,
Okay.
and so what ended up happening was the Los Zeta was actually made up of a bunch of Mexican police and a bunch of other things like that. Well, when we wanted to combat drugs and crime and everything in the 80s, we wanted to train the Mexican police to higher standards. So we took our Green Berets and our Force Recon and our PJs and all that other shit, sent them down to Mexico to then train their police. All right, so they're getting SF level training at a police level. The cartels realized, well, fuck it. We're just going to hire them at higher wages than what the government's going to do, so now they have them. Los Zeta then created their own little thing because they're like, who the fuck is going to stop us? We are the muscle for the cartels. And created their own thing to where, you know, the cartels don't screw with them, they don't screw with the cartels, but they have their own thing now. But yeah, that is one of those like South American type gangs, the cartel things that I hope I never run into.
Yeah, and you know that's the price of information is who obtains it. So anyway, I will be right back. I'm gonna take a quick break.
You and your tiny bladder. But yeah, Epsilon, hopefully this is an informative podcast for you.
I like that. Informative stream.
I think it's informative. Go use the bathroom or something. Like you go away. But yeah, did anyone have any questions for me while we're waiting for Darren to come back? If you don't even have to use your channel points for the AMA. Like what do you want to know? What can I help you with? Oh, and anyone in here that isn't already, of course. Make sure you follow Darren. He's a good dude. I want to like come over here, but it doesn't work until he's back. My day is going great. Other than my mouth still hurting from the dentist yesterday. Yeah, everything else is pretty good. Did you ever explain how you met DLH and Drop? I redeemed the points last night and don't remember if you said... Oh, my bad. So Darren, I've actually known since high school. We were in theater together. Yes, we were theater kids. Lots of plays. Go figure. And Drop, I actually met through some... So Drop is kind of like a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend type thing on, like, online gaming. So... I think originally I was playing Overwatch and kind of found like a group of people. That group introduced me to another person, and then that person in turn introduced me to Drop. And now I've known Drop for like 2 years. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, Darren, I've known Darren now for... I want to say like 20 years. God, that seems like a long time. But yeah, I've known Darren since I was... Yeah, I guess like 15. 14 or 15. So yeah, it's been like 20, 21 years. Yeah. See, my mom remembers him because him and his band used to come over to our house and actually play. We actually made a little stage for him. It was like a 10 by 10 thing with like this gazebo over it. And we'd have like a live band and a DJ come over to all my parties. No, Darren was in the Air Force. I was in the Army. Yeah. I was in the Army for, like I said, 11 years. Darren was in the Air Force for a while. Yeah, I don't remember actually Mark and Darren really hanging out outside of like Regal, to be honest. Oh, well, my pleasure. There's no draft going on, so I wouldn't have done it if I didn't want to. That's the cool thing about it. Weird. Yep. And then the cops would show up for like the sound violations and whatever. We would then get to take pictures with the cops. And now, of course, if I want to go party with cops, I just call up some people. I'm like, hey, let's go party. And we go out and party because there are cops fucking everywhere now. Although most of my cop friends are deployed right now. No. Mike, are you in here? You were supposed to be here today. Mike's not in here. That motherfucker. Any other questions, guys? Because Darren's going to be back, I guess, in like 30 seconds. The Navy, huh? Well, if you do that, one thing I strongly suggest that you do is make sure you are single if you are going to go into the Navy, because more than likely, and I'm not saying that you're a bad person or anything like that, but if you go into the Navy, odds are you will do what is called a Pacific Rim tour. And, But and on the Pacific Rim tour, you literally just go to like 20-something different countries just around the Pacific. And I'm not even lying, 100% of the Marines and the sailors that I have known that have done a Pacific Rim tour have cheated on their significant others.
We're in that conversation.
100%. Well, Epsilon said if he ever joined the military, he'd want to go into the Navy. Which is fine. I'm just saying that if he joins it, I really recommend you don't have a female counterpart until after you've done your Pacific Rim tour. After that, go do whatever the hell you want. But more than likely, no matter how strong-willed or whatever it is you are going to find a hot little thing in the Philippines or in Indonesia or in Japan or wherever
it is you go. And so we call it in the Air Force called the tech school romance, where kids that are like in basic fucking training and they have their sweethearts from high school or whatever, they go to tech school, they bring their significant others out to get married. Number one, so they can get the benefit, which is not having to stay in the dormitories or barracks, depending on what branch you're in. It gets them out of that. But number two, they also get the basic allowance for housing benefit. So that always leads to cheating. And especially in, the initial invasion of Iraq, where like our generation comes from, dude, that shit was so fucking prevalent. And you don't even have to, speak to the indigenous personnel. My own cousin was in the barracks in Iraq. And we'll come back to that, Epsilon. He was in the barracks in Iraq. It was him and two other buddies, and a female lieutenant, blonde, gorgeous, however you want to describe her. You can use your imagination. She told the other two, "Get out," and fucked him right there on the spot. Now, I don't know if she was ever married or whatnot, but that level of fraternization does happen. And there's very few that are very strong-willed in saying, no, I have a wife, I have a husband, I'm sticking to that. And the ones that do, more power to them. My superintendent was one of those. And, probably the coolest cat you'll ever meet. He was very strong-willed, very dedicated to his wife. My own coworker would be the same thing. He did 6 months in Qatar. Granted, that's not a frontline unit, but it's still deployment. he's away from his family for that long, and he too was very strong-willed. More power to him. Those are the few exceptions.
Yep.
So, hey DLH, do you ever land a plane on a carrier? No. Have I been in a C-130? Yes. Have I flown in a C-130? Yes. Have I been on a carrier? Not a carrier. I think I've been on a destroyer. I think that was the type of ship that it was.
He just liked all the semen.
No, I had to go for an audit. But I specifically said that to tee you up.
Oh, it's so good.
But yeah, have I landed a plane on a carrier? No, not the two together. What ship was I on? I think the proper term is destroyer. So it 1 year as a contractor for the Navy. And I, outside of, disputing the job description, one of the jobs that I had to do is I had to go on the Navy ship and do an inventory quality check. And on one of I think the ship that I went on was a destroyer. And by the way, fuck that. Glad I never joined the Navy. Fuck that shit. I don't have claustrophobia, but I don't think I could, where it is I live, I must have space. I must be able to freely walk around without walking into shit, because that will happen. If I'm like this over here, nice and wide, can't run into shit. Even when I just wake up normal, healthy, or wake up fucking hung the fuck over. All right. Freely able to walk around. My last apartment, freely able to walk around. Why? Because I designed it as such. All right. But no, in that Navy ship, oh my God, I would be falling down the fucking stairs. I would be running into everything. And you not only have the tight space to deal with, but the fucking sway of the ship. And yeah, no. Do you not remember its name? No, I do not remember its name. I can tell you the base, but that's about it.
Here's the thing, Epsilon. If it's not a carrier, odds are no one's going to remember the name of the ship that they were on. They might remember it if it's a carrier. They won't remember anything else.
I'm not even sure Navy people are going to care if it's not a carrier.
That's yeah. I mean, unless it's your baby. I mean, if you are the admiral, you're the rear admiral. By all means, you can love your big metal boat.
And again, to join the Navy, you really got to love the ocean. To do anything other than be a SEAL, really got, or a fighter pilot, you really got to love the ocean. You really got to love being on the water,
or a CB,
or be construction battalion. You really got to love that shit. What I always tell people if they want to join is, when I do the breakdown, is if you want medals, join the Marines, because trust me, you do not want to earn them. But if you're a thrill junkie and you love action, join the Marines. If you want rank and you're a workhorse, join the Army. If you want to do drug raids and rescue people, join the Coast Guard. If you want the most professional translation to the civilian side, you join the Air Force. For everything else, you join the Navy, and the Navy encompasses a lot of all of that. So
mine's a little bit different. My whole thing is, what is your love life like, and what is your plans on a love life in the future? No, I'm being serious, because if you have a family, if you already have a family, Air Force or Army, hands down, 100%. If you are planning on having a family sometime in the future, but actually, Air Force if you already have a family, hands down. If you're planning on having a family in the future, the Army. And if you are planning on being single, then one of the fucking ship junkies, whichever branch you want. Go be Operation Human Shield.
Yeah. And that too is a fair question there. But, that's like the tip of the iceberg, because then you can start breaking shit down from there. Dude, fuck the Marines. They have a graphic design MOS. And you're still going to go see blood. Why? Because you were first and foremost a rifleman. So in the Air Force, we're not a frontline unit. So if
They're
you're
not a
looking
backline
for
unit. They play golf.
fuck off.
They were a backswing unit.
Fuck off.
The back nine.
If you're looking for the professional translation, the Air Force is the way to go because you're going to get the financial side, you're going to get the admin side, you're going to get the introduction of the Office of Personnel Management. It is a great direct line if you're trying to get into more government, specifically government positions. I wanted to join the Air Force, but the military won't take me. And for what I was thinking about, I'm too short.
I'm guessing you wanted to be a pilot, right?
Yeah,
because that's literally the only thing that has a height restriction is a pilot. I think a PJ also has a height restriction.
The height restriction is only for a fighter pilot. If for anything else, height really doesn't matter.
Yeah, even for helicopter, I don't think there's a height restriction. Well, there is. Yeah. You can be too tall for jobs. I know you have no issues with that one.
I met a couple dudes at the old base that were like over 6 feet tall, and they were C-130J pilots.
So, okay, C-130 has C-130 has a lot of headroom. A Black Hawk does not.
That's my point. So, for anything other than a fighter pilot, now our the last commander that I was with, he was like 5 foot something, and he was a former fighter pilot. So that may be the issue he's at. Well, the thing is, Air Force is high up, and I am terrified of heights.
Nope, that's not true.
That's not true. So
actually, more Marines fly than any other branch.
So Air Force actually is equitable to that, and actually in terms of flight time. However, pilots and pilots in general, or even if you're working on an AWAC, that's like maybe capturing 10% of the jobs in the Air Force. So I would probably say another 5 or 10% is our JSOCs. And then like a good 30 to 50% is security forces.
But yeah, so the Marines fly all of the Navy shit, and they fly their own shit. Army flies their own shit, and Air Force flies the things that other people then use later on.
We fly them first.
Because the Air Force doesn't even... Does the Air Force still have fighter pilots, or is it all just... Okay.
We have our own top... We have our own... We used to have our... I don't know if we still have our own Top Gun school, if we either have our own or it's a joint branch thing with the Marines and the Navy. But basically our 3 realms of dominance is airspace and cyberspace. Now, I think space is going to be taken out of the equation now that we have the Space Force, because
I want to join the Space Force.
You want to be a space cadet?
I want to be a space potato. Dude, I really want to be a space potato. How great would that be? So what's your rank? Doesn't matter. It's above your head. And I could use that.
What's your rank, Spud?
I would love to be a tater.
Tater?
Did you ever see that, what the fuck was the dude's name? White. I forget.
Ron White?
Yes. They call me Tater. My son's Tater Tot.
That's a very legendary stand-up.
So good.
But yeah, I think the space part of the Air Force is going to be taken out of the equation for the Air Force.
And he's gone. Yeah, and actually it's something that was... Like, I'm really glad that Trump actually signed it in, because that's a great picture. We can always tell when your Discord crashes, Darren, because you have this face that, God, I don't even think a mother could love. Oh. Is someone home? No? I don't think so. No, I think it's too early for the Missa. But
so yeah, the 2 remaining dominances for the Air Force is space and cyberspace. I'm sorry, air and cyberspace. So yes, we get a lot of the cool shit first when it comes to air power. Edwards Air Force Base, I believe, is the primary function for testing all of that, because they have all the open land.
Oh, so I recently heard I don't know if it's true or not. I haven't done my research on it, but right before this whole thing, someone shared a video, or not a video, but a post on Instagram about a Black Hawk helicopter lost an ammo can that went through the roof of a school. And the thing right underneath it is like the governor or whatever of Texas going, "Lord, I've seen what you've done for these children, and I wish to be graced by your good graces as well."
That wouldn't surprise me.
But yeah. Oh, that's what they're called. They're called ammophiles. Not ammophilia, ammophiles.
But yeah, so cowbells?
Cowbells.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to have a height issue or heights issue to join the Air Force. There's a lot of, ground shit, admin shit, boots on ground shit.
They do have a minimum height. They do have a minimum height, though.
They do have a for pilot, not for anything else.
I'm pretty sure they still have a minimum. I think the Army even has a minimum height.
Nope. And the reason why is, and I can attest to this personally, because the Air Force, I love my branch, love my service, but I will throw them under the fucking, truck anytime I can. Will cave to public perception. So if someone that was 4 foot tall, whatever, tried to join the Air Force and they said that they were too short, all they got to do is make a public case of it, and now all of a sudden it's either a lawsuit or they turn around and save face, be like, no, you can join us and we'll get you in. So I think the shortest person I had ever met, she I think was 5 foot exactly.
All right, so the Army height range, it says, is there a height requirement for the Army? The military, not Army, the military only accepts candidates who fall within a specific height range. The cause for the rejection for the Air Force male applicants is height that is less than 60 inches and more than 80 inches. The cause for the rejection for Armed Force females is less than 58 inches or more than 80 inches. That equates to 5 foot to 6'8".
Yeah, I would imagine there being a fucking lawsuit being handed down if that shit actually happened. Because I've met some people that were like 4 foot, and I think I'm sorry, 5 feet, and I'm pretty sure I'm exaggerating that number.
Well, the thing is that 5 foot. I have met a 4'11" female in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've ever met a male under 5 foot. I think the shortest male I've met is 5'2".
I believe we had at least 1 or 2.
So, but that was straight off of the .gov website type thing. Granted, you could also say that, well, they don't allow people to be so fat in the Army, and that's a lawsuit, but it's not. It's just...
That's a different story. So
yeah,
every branch is guilty of that.
But there are specific jobs that have those requirements. I believe the thing for a lot of it is really just that shit's not made for them. Like, could you imagine someone that's like 4'6" trying to strap in to like?
Well, okay, so here's where I'm going to counter that. So, and this is where I'm going to counter that at being devil's advocate in favor of the 4 foot fucking person, or the 10 foot fucking person, is being a pilot or a gunner or operating a A130, the gun of an AC-130 gunship. Are those the only jobs in the military? The answer is no. All right. So there are a lot of.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. So a lot of what a lot of people don't know about the military, and they would see this 100% joining the Guard, is the military, when you break it down to just the base itself, acts like its own organization. It has its own resources, it has its own programs, it has its own functions, all of which require people to operate it, just like any other business organization. And you require people that do that as a full-time job in order for that to sustain itself. Now, with the active duty side, you can get away with civilians, which falls under U.S. Code Title V, to augment a lot of the positions that would not necessarily require a uniform to do. So on the finance side, for example, you'd rather have a military person be able to fight with a gun as opposed to be behind the desk, if you want to look at it that way. I'm plain Janing the description. But in the Guard, we don't really have that much feasibility on the Title V side. So the happy medium is a Title 32, where you're still using a military person wearing the uniform 5 days a week, but they have a civilian-esque job that needs to be done. So that's where if someone that was 4 foot tall or 10 foot tall that wanted to join the military and got declined for such, and all they wanted to do was be finance or admin or medical or whatever, they would absolutely, I would say, have a case make.
Well, as far as the short end of things, I don't think they would.
No pun intended.
But no, as far as the shorter people go, when your stuff's not made for that, you're not going to special order things. Like, I'm sorry, but someone that is 4'6" cannot use an M16 rifle effectively.
Okay.
Which means nope. Hold on, not done yet.
All right.
You cannot complete basic training in any of the things without being able to qualify with a weapon. You cannot qualify with a weapon at their standards at the height of 4'6". If your arms are this long, you are not able to use an M16 proficiently or effectively.
Okay. Then that's its own flunk out. But you can't prevent a person from not being able to try. So if you getting someone in and them ELSing out, for those playing the home game, go ahead and start your counter. ELS is entry level separation. For those ELSing out, all right, it is one thing to ELS out. It is a whole other thing to prevent them from going because you know they're going to ELS out. Those are two very different things.
And see, I don't think so.
That what you think does not matter. What is going to matter is in the eyes of a jury. And all I got to do is present the case of saying, well, this person has the arm's reach from the butt stock to the trigger, and all form was fine, even though they're only 4 foot tall. They're just lanky as fuck for a 4 foot person. They just couldn't shoot worth a damn.
So then how do you...
All of a sudden, it's plugged into the jury's mind that this person was more than capable, so why were they denied? Now, all of a sudden, it's a lawsuit.
So then how do you explain being DQ'd for asthma?
Asthma might be a different story, because if you are actually going into a combat position...
But let's say you're not, because I'm using your same thing.
Okay, let's say you're not. If you are going to an asthmatic situation and you're going to a non-combat job, there is a fine difference between you being able to rest your hands on a keyboard than it is you actually surviving the fucking day.
All right,
your liability.
Again, the counter in the top corner is how many times Darren brings up certain topics that he brings up every single one of these streams, or says a certain line that he says in every single one of these streams.
I got 10 minutes left, and I almost made it through.
Almost.
You had to bring it. You had to cut. You came this close, and I'm like, all right, I got to say it. Entry level separation. Not everybody knows what ELS means.
But again, you are going over, like, your mindset and everything works if you're putting that person straight into what their job is in the military, and that is it. But you don't just put somebody straight into that job. You have basic training.
No. So if you're going active duty, 100%, unless you have a promised job before the fact, which you can get.
But you still have to do basic training.
You still, I haven't gotten that far yet. So if you go active duty, if you're open contract or you have a promised job, you still have to go through basic training. In the Guard, you get your job before you ever set foot on basic training, before you even get your airline ticket.
Correct.
You already have your job.
Correct.
So then you go to basic training. You still have to accomplish that. All right. You cannot be denied the right to try and accomplish basic training, as opposed to someone just denying you outright even though it's an admin job, just because of the fact that your arm can't reach the fucking trigger. Well, if your arm can reach the trigger, all right, cool, shoot the gun. And if you pass it, you pass it. If you fail, and you ELS out. That's a whole different thing than being a liability like asthma.
Someone that is 4'6" carrying a full pack is a liability.
But we just said they're not going into combat. So they're not going to be in full pack. If they're in an admin job, they're still useful.
Even the asthmatic in a admin job during training, they are still a liability.
The asthmatic is useful. That is correct. However, they become a liability because now it's one more thing for, whatever department or branch that they're going into. It's one more thing for people to catch up to. So what if that asthmatic was in the office all by themselves for 8 hours a day and they have an attack and they don't have, any means of getting to, what is it called, an inhaler?
Yes.
What if they have no access to that, or they leave it in the car and there's no one in the office for them to attain that? Outside of them being alone in the office is its own issue. But let's just say that happens, because there were times that I showed up on the weekend to get work done and I was the only one there other than security forces. You're a liability now. And if you die on the base, well, then that's the base's fucking responsibility, and that's their problem. So that's a far cry from not being able to reach a keyboard.
I don't know, man. I would love to see like some one of the best gunners that I ever had was a female, and she was 5'1". All right?
Mm-hmm.
I will drop her name all day long. Amanda Gonzalez was the most badass, just this little bulldog of a lesbian girl. I love her to death. And like, okay, so have you ever fired a Mark 19 from a vehicle?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna say it once for you. For those playing the home game, a Mark 19.
Count it.
All right, fine. I will add a number just for you, even though this is still your number. A Mark 19 is
that is a shared number now.
The Mark 19 is an automatic grenade launcher. All right, I think it fires on cyclic. I think it's like 180 rounds a minute, and you're talking 40mm grenade rounds. So Gonzo would literally be firing these rounds through windows from a moving Humvee. We're doing like 35 on these like back like dirt trails, and she's lobbing rounds through the window, like just sniping people with this thing. It was fucking beautiful. So anyone that ever wanted to give her shit about it, I'm like, let's go to the range. And I mean, she was hitting buildings from like 350 meters away with this thing. Because normally you have like a couple of rounds to like kind of get like ranged in. She'd normally hit it by like round 2. And if it was less than 100 meters, she was putting it through windows.
And that's not the I mean, it's a cool story, and I totally admire that. I didn't think that was the direction we were going to go, but what I would say is I would love to see the court case battle, someone trying to get into an admin job on any of the branches and being denied because of the fact that they were going to be presumed to be ELS out, and because of the fact that their height requirement didn't meet the DODI. If it is a DODI, I don't know. But that too is its own argument, because now you're dealing with certain levels of authority, and if there is no DODI that governs whether or not you meet a height requirement, that's its own issue. And I would love to see the lawsuit on that, because I'm very objective to those things, and I don't necessarily take a side. I'm just like, all right, the DOD or the court, or it probably goes Supreme Court, made this ruling on it in this decision, so therefore that is the law until someone decides to make a change to it, or actually come up with certain policy. I'm very objective to those things.
So they have, however, increased now you can actually get a waiver for weight, but there is still no waiver for height.
Joe actually knew a guy that was I don't know what his position was with the NFL. The dude was fucking massive. Easily, what was the max height requirement?
6'8". 6'8".
I think that dude either hit that or was 7 feet tall, according to Joe's description. But the dude was just all muscle.
All right, here
Right.
it is. How's this one? In the most notable case of a military member, that is Dave Robinson, a renowned basketball player. He started his military career with an official height standard, but went on to add another 6 inches in his first 4 years at the Naval Academy. At the time of joining the military, he was 6'7", but in 4 years he had grown to 7'1". This means he exceeded the 80-inch height standards. Rather than receiving an honorable discharge, he was allowed to see off his contract. He played professional basketball, but continued serving active duty. He later served in the Naval Reserves, doing recruitment and promoted campaigns in the Navy. But that was because he went in under height. It's the same thing as the tattoos. You can be DQ'd for tattoos, but if you have them once you're in, then you're in.
You got to act once you're in.
Yes, but
So
that's an actual court case saying that. Yes. Yeah.
So he was accepted already. And
he was accepted at the age of 17.
Mm-hmm.
This is all about being able to go in early and everything else.
So my position on that is like, all right, if they are already going to presume that you're going to get ELS'd out, there's a difference in people allowing it to happen. In other words, allowing them to ELS you out, as opposed to suing as an injunction to stay in.
Yeah, but in any case, that right there was literally a court case. That was, well, in the case of, I don't think it was an actual court case, but it was a rare thing. But the guy did enlist at under height.
I think that one court case supports both of our points too, because they reprogrammed him into recruiting, right? An admin job. That is still being useful to the military.
Well, he was also an officer, so the dude.
Even that rank don't matter at that point.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't.
I am not hanging out with fucking, colonels and fucking 1-stars in my basic and everything else, all right? I am not hanging out. Huh?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So, I am not sitting there.
What can I say?
I
can network.
I am not sitting there rubbing elbows with fucking brass as a fucking E4 because of the job choice, all right? That was the enlisted side of that, all right? Don't fuck with me.
I was doing that as an E3.
Yeah, okay? It's all so guys,
what can I say? 1, I'm likable. 2, I can network.
Basically, this is what it boils down to, guys. There is this whole line of thinking where if you call someone in the military that is not an officer, sir, they will look at you and say, I am this rank, I work for a living. Because officers don't do anything.
With the exception of the Air Force, because we refer to everybody as sir or ma'am, unless you're a general.
Because none of them do anything. Go ahead and continue.
No, we refer to everybody as sir or ma'am. We're trained at that right at the start of basic training, with the exception of general. Now, when it comes to the enlisted side, the senior NCO levels, E7, E8, and E9, you can refer to them as rank. It's optional. E5 and E6, you can also refer to as rank. Otherwise, your safe haven is sir and or ma'am. However, period dot, if it is a general, it is no longer sir and or ma'am. It is yes, general.
So I used to. So I was really good, on super good terms with my old first sergeant, and so literally, I would see him, and walking into the drill hall or something like that, and I would stop. I'd click my heels together, left-handed, go, Commodore, and he was just like, the fuck, man.
Oh shit! One of my dudes, he just came back from Army basic training. He joined the Guard. He's older. I think he's 35.
Stop saying older. I'm 35, asshole.
Well, fuck you. I'm 37.
He's not older.
He joined older. He just came back from basic training. He's
God,
35.
I feel old as shit now.
Anyway,
why are you like this?
He came back and he had his coming back party. After the story, I gotta take off. and he goes into the bathroom, and so I follow, and because I had to go anyway, and I walk in there, and I decide to call the bathroom to attention. He fucking shakes a little bit. I'm like, it's a bathroom, dude. He wouldn't even salute.
My last story, and then you can go. So when we got our overnight pass when I was in Fort Leonard Wood. All right, so we'd done like half of MP school already. Like we did all the basic half of MP school, and we finally got a night to go out. And it didn't happen to me. It happened to a friend of mine that was in the bathroom. One of our drill sergeants walks in. We're all in civilian clothing. He's taking a piss, and he goes up over the back of his shoulders and says, "At ease, Private," while he's at the urinal in this, like, McDonald's. He comes out, and his pant leg is soaked because it scared him so bad that he then missed the rest of the urinal and just pissed down his leg. And our drill sergeant is laughing his ass off as he walks out and like, "You might want to get changed. I'll see you in the morning."
If I was that drill sergeant, I'd have been like, "Dude, let me go get you some pants." I would have felt bad.
Oh no, it was great. He was one of the fuck ups also. But anyway, Darren has to go because he is really bad at planning things apparently.
No, I'm not really bad at planning things. It's just everything that had to happen today. I think I said that right.
Well, you should have planned for that.
Yeah, you fucking planned for that. Like, fuck.
All right. Is there anyone?
Like I said, I'm gonna dick with you today.
Is there anyone streaming that we want to go drop people on?
I am not even concerned about raiding right now. I got so much shit to do. So, I still got a shower.
This all sounds like personal problems. Darren, have yourself a good day. I think I'm gonna try to see. I think I'm gonna try to stream tomorrow also, but we'll see.
Okay. All right.
I'm out, guys.